Welcome, everybody, to the inaugural episode of Beyond the Four Lines podcast. My name is Cade Chatham. Welcome back. A little bit of a change from what I had said in the initial introduction video. We're going to be previewing the ACC basketball conference today, kind of going through what I think the conference finish is going to look like, as well as the all-conference teams, player of the year, coach of the year, underrated player in the conference, and have a couple categories that going to go through just kind of best team, surprising team, who I think is going to be the most disappointing team, wild card, most improved, worst team. But kind of starting out, a couple news and notes in the college basketball landscape. Biggest news, I'm sure a lot of you have already known, Bruce Pearl retired. I think that's a big blow for college basketball as a whole. I think he was a big advocate and a real ambassador for the game. Great coach. He's had a lot of really good teams at Auburn. He's definitely going to be missed. I think he built a really good program, really strong program at Auburn, and I do think that they're still going to be good this year. I think that they're definitely going to take a step back. That's definitely going to adjust my SEC preview, but, we'll kind of get to that when we get to it. But, really legend of the game. His son's taking over. We'll see how he does. I know he's been with a program, so a lot of continuity still within that program. I think that definitely, like I said, I think that'll definitely change their outlook for the year. Definitely lowers their ceiling. Probably lowers their floor a little bit as well. But a lot of that remains to be seen. I'm pretty sure he's a first-time head coach, so I'm sure it's going to take some time for them to adjust to kind of his way of doing things. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of continuity play-wise. He's probably going to run the same sets, same defense, so not a lot of that's going to change. Just basically head man in charge, and probably might drop a couple games that they should win, just kind of in the late game. It'll be interesting to see how he's able to play the late game, clock management, stuff like that, that more seasoned coaches and experience kind of helps get you kind of more acclimated to that and so forth. But yeah, kudos Bruce Pearl. Hopefully he enjoys retirement. I know there was a lot of talk about him running for the Senate. I'm pretty sure he came out and dispelled that, and he said that kind of put those to rest. He was going to run for Tommy Tuberville's seat, but it looks like he's just going to kind of ride off into the sunset. I'm sure he'll probably be still part of that team and that part of that school as well. So he'll definitely be in attendance for some of those games. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how everything shakes out with Auburn. But kind of getting into the ACC preview, I'll start out with the categories. So starting out with who I think the best team is going to be, I think Louisville is going to be the top team in the conference this year. We'll dive more in depth into that when I talk about, the order of the finishes and stuff. But I think just with what Louisville's been bringing in the transfer portal, they brought in guys. They're going to be able to score with the best of them. They could have one of, if not the best, offenses in the country this year. Pat Kelsey has always been known for his offense, great offensive coach. I live in South Carolina, so he coached at Winthrop, not too far down the road. He actually came to a couple practices while I was in high school. Super nice guy, super cool, really upbeat, great energy. He was actually neighbors with one of the guys that I played high school basketball with, so kind of small world, kind of crazy, just to see kind of where he's gotten to and kind of how his career's progressed. So love that team. It was definitely between them and Duke. I just think with the experience that Louisville has, I know that they're bringing in a lot of new guys, so there's not a lot of continuity coming back. They're going to have to replace, guys like Rain Smith, Chucky Hepburn. Who was the guy from James Madison? I'm blanking on his name right now. He was a huge piece for them last year. Gosh, that's gonna eat at me. Sorry guys, I'm gonna look that up real quick. I hate when I don't know, when I forget things like that. So bear with me for a second. Um, Gosh, that's really gonna eat at me. But while I'm looking at that, love what they brought in. Love the pickup of Isaac McNeely. They're gonna Terrence Edwards. Terrence Edwards was a huge piece for them last year. Brought a lot of scoring for them from JMU. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. Sorry guys. Ryan Conwell, another guy that they picked up from Xavier. I think he's going to be a huge addition for them. He's bringing a lot of experience from the Power 5 level. He was really good at Xavier last year. He can score basically from anywhere. Again, Isaac McNeely, another guy that they brought in from Virginia. I mean, he's going a complete 180 from how Virginia played last year. Complete super slow tempo, kind of methodical way of playing basketball. Coming into Pat Kelsey's system, he's going to thrive. He can shoot the ball from anywhere. He can handle it. The main thing that Louisville has is ball handlers, guys who can make plays off the dribble, guys who can shoot, guys who are just all around offensive guys. Biggest concern I have for them is going to be defensively. I think if they're able to sit down and defend, I think they're going to be very hard to beat. Like I said, I'll get more into them when we get into the how the order finish that I think is going to happen, but I think the best team in the league is going to be Louisville. Surprising team, I'm going with Virginia. I think there were a couple options here. I think the caveat, just kind of getting it out there, I think the ACC is going to be much improved from last year. The ACC was a complete dumpster fire outside of like 2 or 3 teams. I think Clemson, Louisville was a surprise last year. Duke. I mean, other than those 3 teams, most other teams were garbage. They had very few quad 1, quad 2 wins, and it was a terrible conference. So I think it's going to be much improved from last year. They're going to have a lot more depth in the conference this year. I think there's going to be a couple teams that might be able to surprise some people, maybe sneak into the tournament. Like I said, I'll get into a little bit more of that later. But surprising team, I went with Virginia. Ryan Odom's bringing in basically a completely new team coming from VCU. Big guys that I really like for them. Malik Thomas from San Francisco. I think he can score from anywhere. He was a huge piece for San Francisco last year, as they were a pretty solid team in the WCC. Jakari White coming from North Dakota State. I think he's a very solid all-around player. He's going to be able to do a lot for them. He's going to be able to defend multiple positions. He can defend probably the 1 and 2. Probably put him on probably have him guard some 3. Probably don't want him guarding the 3 a lot, probably more so sticking to the 1 and 2 positions, but he'll be a versatile piece for them. Dallin Hall coming from BYU, he'll be a solid facilitator for them. I don't think he's going to be anything. He's not going to light the world on fire all conference, but he's going to be a solid, steady point guard for them, kind of get them into the offense. Agana Onyesu, I think that's how you say his name. It's a difficult name to say. He's coming from Kansas State. Yeah, Kansas State. He was Kentucky, went to Kansas State, now at Virginia. I think he'll be a solid rim protector for him. Probably not much offensively other than a pick and roll lob threat for them. Dunker spot, throw it up to him. Malik Thomas getting downhill, able to get past his man, throw it up, lob. So, but he'll bring a lot to him defensively. He should be a big defensive anchor for him. And one guy that I really like and one guy I really think who could break out for him is freshman Chance Mallory. He should be a very solid point guard for him off the bench, may be able to take over the starting spot from Dallin Hall if he's able to kind of acclimate to the college game quickly. But I think he'll be one to watch as well for him. And I just like the guys that they're bringing in. A lot of what I'm banking on is Malik Thomas being able to do what he did at San Francisco and being able to get downhill, being able to get past his man, getting to having help come over, kick out to some of the shooters. I just really like Ryan Odom as a coach as well. I think that what he did at VCU was really good last year. I think VCU is an amazing program, but I really like him as a coach as well. So I think he's going to do very well for them. Sorry, I have my notes. I'm kind of flipping back and forth from kind of the rosters and kind of my notes. Getting into the disappointing team, I have Syracuse. I really like the talent that Syracuse has. I think that they have a lot of talent coming back and coming in from the portal as well. They have a couple freshmen that I really like, Kyan Anthony, Carmelo Anthony's son. Really like Sadiq White. He was at Myers Park, as I said. Don't live too far from Charlotte. So I've heard Sadiq White, he went to Myers Park High School, ended up transferring to IMG, I want to say. So he should be a solid player for him. JJ Starling coming back. I think he's going to be a really good scorer. I just really don't like Red Autry. I don't think he's a great coach. Again, the talent's there, bringing in Nate George from Georgia Tech. But again, I can't get. I don't think Red Autry is a great coach. Defensively, they were really bad last year, and I don't see that getting any better with the guys that they brought in. I think a lot of the guys, they definitely won't hurt for scoring. I think a lot of the guys on their team can score. I think that that's going to be the way that they win games. They're going to have to just outscore guys. And in college basketball, you have to be able to defend to some degree. You have to be able to get a stop when you need it in crunch time. You can't just outscore people every game and expect to win 25 games a year and get into the NCAA tournament. So I like Syracuse. I like the guys that they have. I think that they have some expectations this year to be good, just with the money that they spent and the guys that they're bringing in. But again, this is more so kind of a knock on Red Autry as a coach and me just not believing in him. Getting into the wild card team, I went with UNC. I think UNC has a wide variable of spots that they can finish. I think they can finish anywhere from, if everything goes well, they could probably win the conference. I think that the lowest finish that they could probably have is 5, maybe 6 if things go really poorly. I really like the guys that Hubert Davis brought in, but I'm just not. He's such a polarizing figure in college basketball, and I'm just not sold on him. He had a lot of talent last year. Obviously, they didn't really have a big man, so that kind of hurt them on the defensive end a lot. But offensively, they're always a pretty solid team. So defensively, they should kind of fix those mistakes, bringing in Henry Vasar. I think he should solidify the paint, solidify the middle, be able to provide some sort of inside presence for them, as well as, be able to provide a post-scoring presence as well. But there's something about Hubert Davis that I can't buy into yet. That's why I'm putting them in the wild card spot. Like I said, I think if everything goes well, they could win the conference and they could be up there with Duke and Louisville, NC State, that group of teams, but they could also fall into the second tier of teams with, the Miamis, Virginia, those type of teams as well. Again, I'll go more in depth once we go in the order of finish. But yeah, UNC I think is definitely my wild card team. Most improved, I think this was definitely the easiest. NC State. They have the ability to go from one of the bottom dwellers of the ACC last year to the top. I think it's basically a foregone conclusion. I think everybody's kind of on board with that. Will Wade is an amazing coach. I'm a Clemson fan. I'm a Clemson grad, so I had firsthand experience watching him beat up on the Tigers in the NCAA tournament, so coming over from McNeese State. So I think he's an amazing coach. He was probably the best hire of the offseason. I think it was between him and the coach over at Iowa. I'm blanking on him. McCollum. Sorry, guys. It's late. It's been a long day, so again, trying to get this out to you guys. So, definitely between Will Wade and Ben McCollum for the best hires of the offseason. I think I would go Wade a little higher just because I know he's a proven commodity. He was able to do it at VCU. He was able to do it at LSU and McNeese State. So I really like that hire. I think he's going to be really good for them. He brought in a whole new team. Darion Williams, he's coming over from Texas Tech. He's going to be a great linchpin in the middle, able to score from the post. He's able to score from the mid-post area. He can catch it on the elbow, rip through finish. He's a versatile piece for them. And I think Will Wade's he's definitely going to use him very well to the best of his ability. Again, we'll kind of get it more in depth with their team as we go through the order of the finish. Trey Holloman is another guy they brought in from Michigan State. Tom Izzo point guards are always rock solid. I think that's a staple of his offense, is having a rock solid point guard, somebody who can command the offense, get everybody into position. So I really like Trey Holloman. I really like that pickup for him. The only thing that I really kind of have questions about with them is their interior defense. Bringing in Vin Allen Lubin from UNC is a solid pickup, but as you saw last year, he wasn't a world beater at UNC. He was a viable option. He was a solid piece for him, but he didn't light the world on fire or anything. So that's the only question I really have with them. But with the talent that Will Wade was able to bring in, I think that I could definitely see them going from bottom dweller to one of the top teams in the ACC. Worst team, had to go with Stanford. I really like Ryan Smith as a coach. I think that in time, if he's able to bring in some talent, that he'll probably end up succeeding at Stanford. But right now, just with the NIL budget that they have, the restrictions that they have in place with bringing guys in, having to meet a standard, having to meet grade standard and stuff, I don't see them being very good this year. And if they are, that's just a testament to how good of a coach Ryan Smith is. He definitely has had a couple good NCAA tournament teams. That Washington State team, I'm pretty sure they won a game, I think, in the NCAA tournament. But solid coach, just not a great roster. Player of the year, gonna get that started. Cameron Boozer from Duke is who I went with. I just think that he's going to have similar impact to Paulo Banchero a couple years ago. Their play styles remind me a lot of each other. They can play make from the floor, able to bring the ball up the court, able to be just an all-around piece, able to score, defend, rebound, play make. I think he's going to be the total package for them. The only thing that I could see kind of keeping him from being player of the year is just with all the guys that they have on that roster. They're bringing back Isaiah Evans on that team. I think he could definitely cut into a lot of the touches for Cameron Boozer. He's a microwave scorer. But I just really love the potential and the talent that Cameron Boozer possesses. And I think that's going to be on full display this year. I really don't know off the top of my head a lot of guys in that league that are going to be able to guard him one-on-one and be able to keep him from kind of tearing up the league. Coach of the year, kind of going back to best team in the league, kind of went with the easy route, Pat Kelsey. Again, I just love what he did with the roster. He brought in a lot of really good pieces with that roster, and I think in time they're going to fit seamlessly together. I think I could foresee some issues with guys maybe not touching the ball enough, but from all the reports I've seen, all the guys are super bought in. They just want to win. Sounds like he has a really good group of guys, and they're just mainly concerned about winning. So underrated. That's the next one. Jaron Pierre. I really like Jaron Pierre coming over from Jacksonville State last year. He was a really good scorer. I think that's going to translate really well to the ACC. I think that he's much needed help for SMU. I think he definitely raises the ceiling of that team as well as the floor. I think that he's going to be able to make the jump in that level fairly seamlessly. and he's going to be a huge piece for that SMU team. Great scorer, definitely something that they needed. Boopy Miller's a solid player for him, but he's going to be their engine. He's going to be their engine to score. He's going to be how they get going. I'll save the all-conference teams for the end, so I'll kind of get into my standings and my predicted finishes. First place, I went with Louisville. Again, I've kind of talked about them a lot so far. They're one of my darlings. A lot of other analysts and people's darlings. Again, with the guys that they brought in, Adrian Woolley is a guy that I haven't really talked about. I think he's going to be a great scorer for them. Great third option. Sorry, I'm flipping back and forth from multiple pages. Adrian Woolley is going to be a great scorer for them. Michael Brown is an amazing freshman that they're bringing in. He reminds me a lot of LeBaron Philon coming out of high school, but he's a lot better. He's a lot better shooter. He's wired to score. He's able to get downhill. He's crafty around the basket, able to finish. Good playmaker. The only thing that I need to see with him is how he's going to be able to defend at the next level. He looks very skinny on film, so definitely getting into that strength and conditioning program. Putting on some size, some weight to be able to stay in front of some of these point guards in the ACC. Javon Hadley is another piece that I really like for them. He's a versatile wing. He likes to do a lot of his damage in that mid-post area, kind of back to the basket, face up. He definitely played very well against Clemson last year. They had no answer for him. I think he'll be a really solid piece for them, connecting piece. He'll be able to run, 2 through 4 for them. So they have a very versatile lineup. Cason Pryor, I'm pretty sure he's coming back this year. I know he had an ACL tear. I don't know what exactly his timetable is. He'll be a really good piece for them, able to, again, handle the ball, play make for him. He can bring the ball up the court. There's nothing more, I'm blanking on the right word for it, but, being able to get a rebound and being able to push in transition without having an outlet, that's, you love to have a guy like that. So he's another versatile piece for them. Kobe Rogers came over with Pat Kelsey from College Charleston. I don't think he played last year. I'm pretty sure he was hurt, but he should provide a good scoring punch for him. He should be a solid player. Sananda Frew, I think he's going to be an X factor for them. They're definitely lacking on the interior with some of their bigs. Cason Pryor isn't the biggest guy. He's probably 6'9", 6'10" or so, but not really an interior presence. He's more of a stretch. I would like him more playing the stretch 4 position. So Sananda Frew is going to be a huge, vital piece for them. If he's able to provide an interior presence for them, if he's able to just kind of be able to lock down that middle, lock down the paint, kind of deter some guys from driving, maybe make them kick out instead of going up with it. That's going to be vital for Louisville's success. Another guy who is huge for them getting back is Ali Khalifa, getting another year of eligibility. He's more of a Jokic type of player. He's able to, like a playmaking 5-man. He was really good for Mark Pope when he was at BYU. I think he got hurt as well before the start of last season. So he was able to get a waiver of eligibility for this year. He's going to be a huge piece for them this year, being able to play some of those 5 minutes. So I think the biggest thing with Louisville is being able to find somebody to eat up the 40 minutes of playing the 5. Every other position is basically covered. You have as many guys you can think of, 1 through 3, 1 through 4. So that 4 and 5 position is going to be pivotal for their success this year. Second team I have is Duke. There isn't much to say about Duke. They're a great team. They're churning out first-round draft picks every single year. They're one of, if not probably the most talented roster in the league, and maybe even the whole of the NCAA. The guys that they bring in, the 5 stars every single year. The only thing that I kind of knocked them down on, I'm not super sold on John Shire. I like him as a coach, bringing in talent, and I think he's definitely improved, but I think there's still some late game issues that he has to work through. A couple big ones that come to mind last year against Houston, that was huge. I really think that he mismanaged that game at the end. Not making free throws, pivotal. The way he handled the ending of the Clemson game as well. I just think that he has some room to grow as a coach. Again, not saying that he can't get there or that he won't get there this year. I like what Louisville has a little more. I think I just like Pat Kelsey right now as a coach more than I like John Shire. Getting into some of the guys that they have, again, talking about Cameron Boozer, Caden Boozer as well. But Cameron Boozer, he's going to be a pivotal piece for them. How good that he is going to dictate how good they are. Is he going to be a Cooper Flagg impact guy? Is he going to be, Paulo? Is he going to be like Paulo? Is he going to be one of those high-level freshmen that they bring in? I think that he will. Obviously, there is a chance that he's not as good as advertised, but I think that he's going to be a great piece for them. Bringing back Isaiah Evans is huge. Amazing scorer. He's going to provide the scoring punch that they need on the wing. He can score from anywhere. Reminds me a lot of, Brandon Ingram, somebody like that who's a longer, lankier guy. I think defending for him is going to be huge. If they can get him to buy in on the defensive end, the sky's the limit for this kid. He has a lot of potential. Dame Sarr coming in as a freshman, coming from FC Barcelona. I think he was a great late addition for them as well. He's another longer, lankier guy. Interested to see how he kind of adapts to the college game, playing overseas against professionals. That should prepare you, but there have been guys that have jumped over from those leagues and not had the success that their teams were hoping for. So I like Dame Sarr. Interested to see him. Caleb Foster coming back. I think he's a solid point guard for them. I don't think he's really lived up to the 5-star billing. I think every year we talk about, oh, this is the year Caleb Foster's going to break out. Oh, this is the year Caleb Foster's going to break out. And it just hasn't been there, So really him being able to command the offense, being able to be a steady at point guard for him. Again, I've talked about being able to get the guys into the offense quickly and efficiently. That's going to be huge for him, being able to knock down threes, being able to defend. I think he should be a solid player for him. But again, I don't think he's a world beater or anything. He could completely prove me wrong, and I really hope that he does. But as of right now, I think he's a solid piece for him. Caden Boozer should be another solid piece for him. I think he's kind of in the same mold as Caleb Foster, where he's going to be a solid, heady point guard. Should be able to defend pretty well. Should be able to play make for him. Again, get him into the offense. He'll be a solid presence for him. Malik Brown coming back from last year's team. Really great defender. Basically, you can put him on 3 through 5, and he will lock down anybody who you put in front of him. Amazing defender. I think definitely losing him towards the end of last year really hurt Duke, and it kind of showed defensively. Getting him back is huge. Patrick Ngongba coming back as well. He was 5-star, didn't really play a whole lot last year, just with Malawach playing in front of him. He ate up a lot of the minutes. But Ngongba kind of came on at the end of last year. He's a solid player, good interior presence, good rebounder. I think he'll be a solid player as well for him. Could make the jump into he has the potential to be an all-conference player. So we'll see what he looks like, but I think he'll be definitely solid for him. Getting into the third position, I have NC State. I talked about them a little bit. I like the guys that they're bringing in as well. Bringing in Darion Williams from Texas Tech, bringing in Terrence Arsenault from Houston. He's going to be a very solid player for him. I think he's going to be able to be at least a really viable defender coming over from Houston. Kelvin Sampson really you have to defend to be on the court for him. So I think if anything, he's just going to be a solid defender. I think his offensive game has the potential to elevate him to, second scorer, second leading scorer, second option behind Darion Williams. But he should at least be a really solid second, third option for him. Again, Trey Holloman, I think he's a really good pickup for him, really solid point guard. Going to be able to get him into the offense, be able to set them up, set the table for Darion Williams, Terrence Arsenault, guys like that. I think that he's going to be invaluable to the team. Allen Breed and Kadir Copeland, those are solid pickups as well, coming over for Will Wade, bringing over some continuity. And I mean, Kadir Copeland's played in the ACC before. He played at Syracuse his freshman year, I want to say, maybe freshman and sophomore. At least 1 year at Syracuse. But he should be a microwave scorer for him. He's a hot and cold player. He is some possession or some games where he could shoot you out of a game, and then there are some games when he just is on fire and he lights up the scoreboard. So just getting him to be a little more consistent is going to be huge for Will Wade. If he can provide some consistency coming off the bench or maybe even starting, I think the six-man role is going to be more likely for him. I think that's the best suited for him. He'll be really good. Again, kind of what I alluded to earlier, the biggest issue I see with them is just their interior presence. Talked about Ben Allen Lubin, Jerry Dang coming over from Florida State. I think he's got a lot of potential. Florida State with Leonard Hamilton, they used to thrive on getting these, 6'9", 6'8", 6'10", 6'11" guys who are really long and lanky, have a lot of potential. I think Jerry Dang is one of those guys. So it'll be interesting to see him coming over and how Will Wade's able to use him and mold him into a solid player for him and seeing if he's able to contribute. So again, biggest question I have with NC State is their interior scoring or their interior defense. Zamika Wilkins is a guy I could see getting playing time at some point this year, probably later in the year as he's a freshman coming in. Got to see him play at one of the grassroots events around here. I thought he played pretty well. He played for Drifty Cold Hearts, if you guys know who that is. So wasn't able to get a great read on what he looks like, but he looked good. He had a big body, definitely college ready body, able to play early. So it'll be interesting to see how he's able to adapt to the game, able to see how he's able to adapt to kind of the ACC basketball. Fourth, I have Virginia. They were my surprise team. I really like the guys that Ryan Odom brought in. I think that he's going to have a solid team, probably a little similar to the team that he had at VCU last year. Like I said, I really like Malik Thomas, Devin Tillis. I think he's going to be a solid stretch four for him. It's been a lot of talking. Chance Mallory coming in at point guard. He's a guy that I could see, possibly breaking out for him. Again, he's a shorter point guard, but great playmaker, super quick, should be able to get downhill. Dallin Hall, I've already kind of talked about UVA a lot, so I won't spend too much time on them, but I really like them. I think they're a very solid team. I really like the Jakari White, Malik Thomas duo. I think that that's going to be a very solid duo in the ACC. So they're my fourth finished team. Fifth, I have UNC. Again, this is where I have them. I'm sure some people have them a lot higher. Again, I just can't get behind Hubert Davis until he shows me. I don't think that he's been able to put together his roster of his guys. So this is one of the first years that he's able to do that. A lot of the guys I think that he had were kind of holdovers from Roy Williams and kind of the success that he had. So it'll be interesting to see how Hubert's able to do with his guys. I really like Kyan Evans. He was a really good pickup for him from Colorado State. He was a great player in the NCAA tournament, able to help Colorado State almost get to the Sweet 16 last year if it weren't for a If it weren't for a Derek Queen last second heave prayer, they were going to the Sweet 16. So I really like what Kyan Evans is going to bring to him. He's a great shooter. He should be able to at least be that for him, if not, a good combo guard, able to, play a little bit of point, bring the ball up the court, some for him. I think he'll be a solid option. Other guys that I like Jaren Stevenson. He's going to be a really versatile piece coming over from Alabama. He was a really good 3-and-D player over at Alabama. I think that's a lot of what Nate Oates has over there, is just guys who are long, lanky, can defend, versatile pieces. It'll be interesting to see kind of the strides that Jaren Stevenson is able to make this year. I would like for him to be a little more efficient from the three-point line. Maybe be able to expand his game a little bit, be able to put the ball on the ground a little more. But at least he's going to be a very versatile 3-4 man, probably can guard the 5 a little bit. But, defensively, he could probably guard 1 through 4 for him at least. So I really like Jaren Stevenson, really like him. Henry Vasar was a massive pickup for them. I think everybody knows that the biggest issue that UNC had last year was their interior their paint presence. So getting him is huge. He's going to solidify that paint for him and be able to lock that down. I think the X factor for them is going to be Seth Trimble. How is he able to adjust to playing full-time point guard? Is he going to be able to kind of set up the offense, get guys, again, alluding back to just kind of getting guys into the position, being able to take care of the ball, limit turnovers, being able to defend at that point guard position. I really like Seth Trimble. I think he's going to be good for him. But again, I just have there's a couple questions that I have with them. Hubert Davis being one of them. I really do see the vision with this team, but I just have to see it on the court. Again, I could see them finishing anywhere from winning the conference to where I have them at 5. I went a little more conservative with them, just with the question marks that I had from last year coming into this year. So they're in my 5 spot. 6 spot, I think Miami is going to finish in the 6 spot. I really like what Jai Lucas brought in. I think that him being a first-time head coach could have some potential. They could see some potential issues. Again, closing out late game situations, being able to manage the clock, being able to just set guys up to succeed in the late game. I think that's a skill that's learned. Very few coaches, I think, have just come in with that. You have to learn from experience. Failures, successes, what you did right in one game may not always be the right decision in another game. So, him being a first-time head coach, not really a concern, more so just like a hesitance, a pause for them. But they have a lot of talent coming in. Trey Donaldson coming in from Michigan should be a really solid point guard for him. He was a great point guard for Dusty May last year. Saved him in a couple games, hit a game winner or two for him, a couple big game winners. So he'll be a very solid point guard with a lot of experience. Malik Renew coming over from Indiana. Indiana wasn't great last year, but Malik Renew has a lot of experience playing college basketball at a high level. Biggest thing, Ernest Uday is another guy they brought in from TCU. He's more of a paint presence, kind of like Onyesu over at UVA. I think they're very similar, kind of lob threats, dunker spot guys, pick and roll, lob threats, offensive rebounding threats. That's going to be their bread and butter. So I like him. The biggest question that I have with this team is just their spacing. Malik Renew isn't a great shooter either. Maybe that's something he worked on in the offseason and he's going to be able to stretch it out to 3. But just judging off what I saw last year, their paint's going to be clogged, which could cause some issues for a guy like Trey Donaldson, who might try to get downhill. True Washington's another great pickup for him. I think he's a great defender coming over from New Mexico last year. He was a really solid piece for that team that went to the NCAA tournament, won a game against Marquette. So he'll bring a lot of experience as well as a pretty solid shooter for him. Shelton Henderson has a lot of potential, 5-star freshman that they were able to flip from Duke late in the cycle. He's very athletic. It'll be interesting to see how he's able to adapt to the college game as well. But I think he'll be a very solid piece. And kind of getting back to what the potential issues I see with them, spacing, teams that might have very solid defenses and be able to pack it in on the defensive end, I think they could see some issues with that, just with their lack of shooting and spacing. Like I said, I think Donaldson's a solid shooter. True Washington is, but other than that, I have some questions in their starting lineup from deep and being able to shoot. So I think that'll be pivotal for them, is getting guys in and being able to kind of build up that chemistry together in the non-conference. But I think Miami will be a very solid team, finishing in the 6th spot. 7th spot, finishing behind them, I have SMU. SMU was a very weird team last year. They beat up on really bad teams, but they weren't ever able to get a solid win that was able to be their defining win to get them into the tournament. So I think bringing in Jaron Pierre is going to be big for them. Like I said, he's one of my most underrated guys. I don't really hear a lot of people talking about him this offseason. Coming from Jacksonville State, he was over a 20-point-per-game scorer there last year, so I think, if anything, he'll be a great scorer for them coming in. Bringing back Boopy Miller is huge. He's the engine. He's their engine that makes them go. He gets everybody into the position. He's a great playmaker, really solid heady point guard for them. He'll be able to take care of the ball. Sam Walters is a guy that I like coming from Michigan. He'll at least be a good stretch four. He was a solid guy over at Alabama as well, just hasn't really gotten a lot of playing time. So this will be a really good chance for him to kind of show what he's able to do. But at least for them, he'll be a really solid stretch four. Samet, I don't know how to say his last name. Turkish guy, big Turkish dude. Should be a solid interior presence for them as well. I like SMU. If they're able to get over the hump and win some of these big games this year, I like Andy Enfield as a coach coming over from USC. Usually the big knock on him coming over from USC was that he kind of played down to his competition. So it was a little ironic that last year they were able to beat up on some really bad teams and have really bad showings against some solid or better teams. The biggest one that comes to mind is Clemson last year. Clemson shorthanded going to SMU. They didn't have Boopy Miller, I don't think, but I mean they got killed. Losing Matt Cross is going to be a big loss for them as well. He was a good solid player for him. So I like SMU. I like the guys they're bringing back, the guys that they're bringing in. So I think that they'll be a very solid team. Number 8 spot. I tried to be unbiased with this, and I think I was pretty good at that. If I was being really biased, I probably could have put Clemson above SMU, Miami, those teams. But I'm trying to be unbiased here, putting Clemson at number 8. I think that Brad Brownell is one of the more underrated coaches in the ACC. He's really good defensive coach. His teams usually thrive on the defensive end, and I think that's going to be what Clemson has to do this year. I really like Dylan Hunter. He was a really solid, efficient player for him last year. If you look at a lot of the efficiency metrics, him, Victor Lawkin, and Ian Shefflin, they were three of the more efficient. They were one of the more efficient trios in college basketball last year, which is really weird because Dylan Hunter was not really one of the main guys on that team last year. So not really one that you think of off the top of your head, but he's a really solid player. He should solidify their point guard position. He can play the 2 as well. He played a lot of the 2. He played some 3 last year for him as well in really small lineups. but he'll definitely be their starting point guard, should be solid. I think he could break out. He could end up finishing, I could see him finishing as an all-conference player if he's able to kind of break out in the same way that his brother did, kind of up his usage. He's going to have an up in usage this year. So that could see him, going to a maybe 15-point per game scorer. So I think that would be pivotal for Clemson. If he's able to do that and break through, then I could see them going a little higher. But I just don't see a lot of offensive threats on this team. So it's going to be big for Brad Brownell to get that team dialed in defensively. Bringing in Nick Davidson from Nevada, I think he's going to be a really, really good pickup for them. Clemson always thrives when they have a really solid big man, guys that come to mind, P.J. Hall, even going back to like Elijah Thomas, last year Victor Locken, Ian Shefflin. Those are some guys that really thrived in the Brad Brownell system. He's one of the more old school guys. He plays two bigs. He likes to do that high-low. He likes to bring some guys. He likes to bring the four to the paint or to the top of the key to the free throw line area, and then have his 5-man, 4-man, whoever it is, when they have a mismatch, seal right in front of the basket. So I think Nick Davidson will be able to get some easy buckets in Brad Brownell's offense. Carter Welling is another guy that I like. He should be a very versatile piece coming in from Utah Valley. Really like what he brings. He can stretch the floor. I think he's going to be a little bigger, or a little taller, lankier version of what Ian Shefflin was for them last year. Other guys that they brought in, R.J. Godfrey, coming back from Georgia last year. He was on the Elite Eight team. Ended up leaving to go to Georgia, coming back. He'll be a solid defensive player for him. Probably won't bring much offensively. But he's a really solid defender, and he should be a solid piece on this team. Another guy that they brought in from UAB, Ephraim Butta Johnson. It'll be pivotal for him to be a very good, very solid three-point shooter for him. And then Justin Porter is another guy coming in from Middle Tennessee. He should be solid. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get or how much he's going to contribute. He should be solid. One guy that's a little underrated. I know I'm talking about Clemson a lot. I know a lot. I study the teams, but obviously, my team, I know more about them. I know more about kind of the guys, the system that they run, how they fit in. So Zach Foster is a guy that I can see possibly breaking out towards the end of the year. He's a freshman coming in. It'll be interesting to see how he's able to acclimate, but I think that there is a role for him as a scorer, in that two-man slot, in that shooting guard slot. If he's able to kind of get up to speed, possibly able to kind of show some scoring prowess, I think that there's the chance that he's able to be a very solid player for him. Into the 9 spot, I have Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame. I like what Micah Shrewsbury is building. Marcus Burton is one of the better point guards, if not the best point guard in the conference. Pretty sure he was the top scorer last year, if I'm not mistaken. So he should be back. He should be solid for him. Braden Shrewsbury, I think that they have one of the better 1-2 players in the league. Great shooter. Should be a pretty good offensive piece for him. Sir Muhammad is another guy that they're bringing back. He was a freshman last year. I would like to see him take a jump. He's coming from Myers Park High School as well in Charlotte. So, son of Nazi Muhammad, actually. Played for a couple teams in the NBA. I know of the Thunder, Bulls are the two that come to mind. So, Nazi Muhammad, he should be a solid player. I'm a little concerned about their interior. I like Jalen Harrelson. He's a freshman coming in. He should be a solid piece for him. He'll probably be one of the more vital pieces for them to succeed. I could see them being a sleeper if everything kind of goes right. I think Marcus Burton could probably will them to a couple wins just off scoring alone. He has the ability to go off for 30 any given night. He's that good of a scorer. But I like what Micah Shrewsbury is doing. He's more so using a lot of high school guys. He's not really looking in the portal a lot, so it'll be interesting seeing him take more of that high school route and seeing if he's able to develop some of these guys. But I like Notre Dame in the 9 spot. 10 spot, I have Wake Forest. I like Steve Forbes as a coach. His teams are usually solid. They're never really world beaters. I know that they lost a couple guys, big ones being Hunter Salas, Cam Hildreth, who I was never super high on. Some people were high on him. I wasn't one of them. Thought he was a solid player, but nothing crazy. Biggest one though, Hunter Salas. Already said his name, but he was a huge vital piece for them last year. So replacing him and replacing his scoring is going to be huge. Makai Mason is a guy that I like coming over from Washington. He should be a solid piece for him. I look for him to take over some of that scoring. I don't think that he's going to have the same impact that Hunter Salas did, but I think he should be a solid player. Juke Harris is a guy that I could see breaking out. He was a freshman last year, maybe taking that sophomore jump. Miles Colvin coming in from Purdue. He'll be a solid player. Coming over from that Purdue system, having some experience playing at the Power 4 level, really big games at Purdue that he played in. He played a lot of minutes for him. I'm pretty sure he was a starter for him last year, so he should be pretty good. Omaha, Billy U, 5-star guy, never really panned out. Maybe he does. Not really holding my breath, but the potential is there. Super athletic. He just has never really been able to put it together. A guy that I really like is Cooper Schweiger, coming over from Valpo. He was a pretty solid piece in the Missouri Valley for Valpo last year. So I'd look to him to be able to provide an interior threat, interior scoring, back to the basket, even able to provide some interior defensive versatility for them as well. So they're in my 10 spot. My 11 spot, Syracuse, already kind of talked about them, kind of lower on them than maybe their talent level may be. Again, I don't think they're going to have any issues scoring the basketball. Nate George is a guy that I really like coming over from Georgia Tech. He's going to be a solid point guard. I think he's going to be able to score for him. J.J. Starling, proven commodity in the ACC, guy who is wired to score. He can score from anywhere on the court. Nate King coming over from Oregon, not Washington State, sorry, wrong Pac-2 team. Coming over from Oregon State should be a very solid shooter for them. If anything, he'll be a good kick-out option for Nate George when he's able to get downhill, get to the basket. Again, a question I have for them, again, with a lot of the teams, just their interior presence. Do they have somebody at the basket who's able to block shots, or not even block shots, just affect shots, deter guys from going up with it, having to kick it out? That's a really underrated. I don't even know if it's underrated. That's a really valuable piece to have, is somebody in the middle who's able to just kind of clog up the lane, make driving lanes more difficult. So Donnie Freeman is a guy that's coming back for him. He was solid last year, but not a great interior presence. William Kyle coming over from UCLA. He should be good defensively, coming from Mick Cronin's system, preaches defense. But I don't think he's a world beater or anything. He's not going to solve any of their issues. Kyan Anthony should be a really good freshman. I think he might be a little overhyped just off name alone, but I think he'll at least provide, name value for him. But should be a pretty good player. Again, I really love the talent that they have. I can't get behind Red Autry after last year, after their disaster of a season. So look for Syracuse to be better just off talent alone, but I don't think that's going to get them anywhere near the tournament. So they're finishing in my 11th spot. 12th spot, this may be a little surprising to some people, but I have Boston College. I really like their coach. I'm a little higher on them than some people. I'm blanking on his name. He coached at Clemson. He coached at College of Charleston. and he also came to a couple of our practices. Sorry, bear with me. Geez, Earl Grant. I don't know how I didn't know that. I don't know why I blanked on that. I'm sorry, guys. Earl Grant, I think he's a really solid coach. I think he gets the most out of his players. He's just dealt a really bad hand at Boston College. I don't think they have a great NIL. So he's kind of he just has to work with what he's got. Chase Forte is a guy that I really like coming from South Dakota. He was really good for him last year. I think that he can make the jump to the ACC. Jason Asamoah coming over from Baylor, he has a lot of potential. Donald Hand was a really good guy for him last year. So those are some of the guys that I really like for him. And again, this spot is more so for kind of me being high on their coach and his talent development and what he's able to do talent development wise. 13th, I like Virginia Tech. Mike Young, he had a really rough season last year. He didn't really have a lot of NIL backing. I think he's a really great coach coming over from Wofford back in the Fletcher McGee days when he was able to take him to the tournament. He was solid for the first couple years over at Virginia Tech, but just the NIL backing that he's had, he just hasn't been able to get guys in. Toby Lawal is going to be a huge player for him. I think he's one of the better players in the ACC. Amani Hansberry coming over from West Virginia should be a decent, solid pickup for him. Isaiah Pasha coming over from Delaware is a guy that I really like making that jump. So I like Virginia Tech. I really like Mike Young as a coach. Toby Lawal might be able to will them to a couple wins. I think he's a really solid player. I always think back to what he said at the end of last year, his quote. If you guys haven't seen it, go look it up. Really, really funny stuff. I think that there will be improved, but I don't know if it'll be enough to keep Mike Young to keep his job. So they're finishing in the 13th spot. 14th spot, Georgia Tech. They're a team that is, again, trying to build from the high school ranks as well. Damon Stoudemire, not a great team. I don't think that they have a lot of talent on this team. Muhammad Silla, I don't know exactly how you say his name. He's coming in. He was a highly regarded freshman, 7-footer, really should be a solid interior presence for them. Kawasi Reeves is a guy who's been around the block a lot, senior now, played at Florida, really highly rated recruit, just hasn't really panned out. Maybe he's able to break out and give them something. I think he'll probably have a higher usage rate this year. Lamar Washington coming over from Pacific by way of Texas Tech, I want to say. Lefty point guard, he played pretty well at Pacific last year, but seen him at the Power 4 level, wasn't a huge impact player, so be interesting to see how he was able to develop at that level and see if he's able to kind of rebound and be able to be something for him. But just not a whole lot of talent here from Georgia Tech, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. They don't really have a whole lot. The bottom of the ACC is really bad. Not a lot of, once you get from like 14 to 18 spot, they could honestly finish in really any order. There's not a whole lot of talent with these guys. So yeah, it's the bottom of the ACC is really rough. Getting to the 15th spot, going Florida State. This is a team I could honestly end up seeing finish last in the league. Not a whole lot that they have. Luke Laux coming in his first year. He wasn't really dealt a great hand. They don't have a huge NIL budget, but for what he has, I think he was able to bring in a couple guys. Big guys to look out for. Robert McCray, he was really solid at Jacksonville last year. So seeing if he's able to make that jump is going to be, he could be big for them. I don't see him being any all-conference player or anything, but, he should be a solid player for him. Other big pickup that they had, if you would call that, Chauncey Wiggins. Being a Clemson fan, I have seen Chauncey Wiggins firsthand. He is all potential, just not great. He's a 6'10", lanky player who only wants to shoot threes. He will shoot them out of games. He'll shoot them in games. He's one of the most hot or cold players in the NCAA. My notes on him, I have a little bias with him coming from Clemson. So there were a couple games last year where he didn't play very well, and I'm not very high on Florida State. I don't think that they're going to be very good. So yeah. 16th spot, I have Pitt. Again, not a whole lot to say about Pitt. They lost their biggest guys. They lost the Diaz-Graham brothers, who I don't think are that good to begin with, but they're some of their best players. Jalen Lowe is their big loss going over to Kentucky. They don't really have somebody to replace him. DeMarco Minor should be solid for him coming from Oregon State. He'll probably end up being their top scorer. Deshaun Jackson coming over from Iowa State. I think he's a solid player on the interior, but I don't see Jeff Capel keeping his job this year, and I don't think Pitt's going to be very good. So that's really all I have to say about them. 17th spot, I have Cal. Again, not much here. So Day-Day Ames coming over from Virginia. I guess he's a solid player for them. He'll probably be one of their better players. Chris Bell is a guy who played over at Syracuse, so he's been in NCAA. He's a very hot and cold player. Lee Dort's been there for a couple years. He's a decent interior player for him, interior presence. But again, Cal, they just don't have a great NIL budget. Not much there to go off of. So, like I said, the bottom of this conference is rough, guys. I mean, it's rough. It's gonna be. They're gonna only win a couple games, if they're lucky. And then again, going back to it, Stanford is my other team that finished last. Not a whole lot here. They lost their best player, Maxime Reneau, Oziah Sellers, two best players. They were solid last year, but I just don't see them being very good this year. Again, if they are good, I credit that completely to Ryan Smith as a coach, or Kyle. Gosh, I've been saying Ryan Smith this whole time. It's Kyle Smith. Jeez. Kyle Smith, their coach. Jeez, an hour and 3 minutes in, and I've been calling him by the wrong name the whole time. I might get clowned for that, but Kyle Smith, geez, that one's going to haunt me for a while. I really like him as a coach. Could be something. I know he's got a couple big recruits. He's got Akeem Olajuwon's son, who just committed a couple days ago, another solid 4-star guy. So, he's getting some high school players in, but I don't think it's anybody who's going to be able to kind of get in early and get playing time. If anything, it's just going to be a rebuilding year for them. So not a huge NIL budget. So they're going to be at a disadvantage from a lot of the other teams in the conference. So yeah, that's my 1 through 18. Let me know in the comments section who you guys think will finish 1 to 18. If you guys have if you guys don't like where I put people, if you guys think that anybody's going to be finish higher, lower, just let me know your thoughts. Always open to other people's opinions, other people's thoughts. I'm just here to, provide you guys my opinion on things. So one more segment that we have before we wrap things up, all conference players. I did 5 for the all conference first team, 5 for the all conference second team. So getting into things, all conference first team point guard, I have Marcus Burton. Could possibly very well end up being the top scorer in the league this year. He's going to have a high usage rate. He should probably see north of 20 points per game, as he did last year. So I think that alone is going to get him on all conference first team. He might have a chance if Notre Dame is able to kind of outplay some expectations. He could have a chance at winning player of the year, but I think he'll be a very solid all conference first team player. Shooting guard, could have gone a lot of different directions with this, but I went with Ryan Conwell. Proven commodity from Xavier, should see a seamless transition into Pat Kelsey's offense. If anything, he'll see a higher usage rate. Probably not usage rate, but he might see a jump in points per game. Just with the pace that they play at, getting up and down. If he's not scoring, he should be able to at least get in with some assist numbers. He might not put up huge numbers every single game, but I really like him. Think he's one of the most talented players in the conference, in the league. So I like him at all conference first team. At small forward, like Darion Williams, love him coming over from Texas Tech. Proven commodity, one of the best players in the portal this season. Huge pickup for Will Wade, keeping him away from Kansas, among others. Paid him a lot of money to be there, so they're definitely going to get the most out of him that they can. He's going to be a great player for them, their linchpin. He's going to be the engine that makes them go. Any way that you want to say it, he's going to be one of their best players. If not, he's going to be probably NC State's best player. Cameron Boozer, I have as the next guy. Again, I had him as the conference player of the year. Just continuing that Duke lineage of high-level freshmen. Not a whole lot to say. Should be a great all-around player for him. Defend, rebound, score, threat on the offensive end, even if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. So he's going to be a great player for him. Already talked ad nauseum about a lot of these guys, so I won't go too in depth a lot more. Center, I have Henry Vasar. I think he's going to alleviate a lot of UNC's issues that they faced last year. So, getting him was huge. He should be able to stretch the floor a little bit for him. It's going to be great interior presence. Was great for Arizona last year before he got hurt. I think that is you saw a little drop off with Arizona last year after he did get hurt. So great player, great pickup for UNC. Going to be very good for them moving forward. All conference second team. Moving forward to all conference second team, I have Michael Brown at point guard. Great freshman. Going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Even off the ball, going to be a great spot up 3-point shooter. Going to be able to get to the basket. One thing that you guys will see, Pat Kelsey is a offensive guru. So being in that system, getting up and down, playing at the pace that they're going to play at, going to have a lot of possessions, going to have a lot of games where they're scoring in the 70s or in the 80s, 90s. They may put up 100 in some games. So I think he's going to have a lot of room to put up a lot of stats. Malik Thomas is the next guy. Talked about him a lot coming over from San Francisco. Have super high hopes for him this year. I think he's going to be a great player moving up a level. Great player for Ryan Odom. He's going to be able to get the most out of that guy. I think Malik Thomas being able to get downhill past his guy, being able to play make, get downhill and finish, pull-ups, step backs. his full arsenal is going to be on display for Ryan Odom this year. Really like Malik Thomas. Really love him as a player. Going to be really good for him. Isaiah Evans is the next guy that I have. Microwave scorer. One of the best scorers in the country. Just wired to get buckets. You saw him put up multiple 20-point games. Didn't get a whole lot of playing time last year. Going to see a huge spike in that. Biggest key for him is defensively. Like I said, is he able to lock in on that end, keep his head right. Really fiery guy. Actually trained with one of the guys that I know. So don't know him personally, but heard a lot of really great things about the kid, and I think he's going to be really good for him. Caleb Wilson isn't a guy that I talked about on the UNC squad, so my fault for that, but really like Caleb Wilson. I don't know how I could even forget about him. Really great freshman coming in for UNC. Great power forward. Going to be a very versatile piece for UNC. I think he's going to have the ability to possibly be the second option on that team. I think he could even be the first option for him. They don't have a go-to scorer, which, he possibly could step into that role, but a lot of potential for him. Could definitely see him being a really high impact guy early, and super excited to see what he can do. And then rounding out the all conference second team, I have Nick Davidson. Like I said, guys, big men thrive in Brad Brownell's system. Really like what Nick Davidson's going to bring. I think he's a very similar player to what Victor Locken was for him last year. He's able to stretch the floor a little bit. But yeah, he should be a really solid player for him. So yeah, guys, that wraps up my ACC preview. Again, with the all conference teams as well, if you guys have any deviations from what I had, any thoughts on kind of the guys that I had on there, any changes that you guys would have made, feel free to drop them in the comments. Would love to get some dialogue going with some people about kind of the college basketball season. It's coming up soon. Early November is when college basketball starts. So, just like a month and a half, maybe just under a month and a half. So it's coming quick, guys. Super excited for it. Definitely not looking past college football season. Full swing. Love college football. Speaking of that, college football preview will be out tomorrow. Got to do a lot of prep for that. So have a huge slate this weekend. Super pumped for it. Starting out with ECU and Army tomorrow night. That's going to be a great game. I will have my preview out for that tomorrow. And yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this. Super excited to kind of get this podcast ramped up. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next time.